RCB, The Fall Before the Glory, Part 2, the complete story of Royal Challengers Bangalore, 2017 to 2026. After the perfect season. The 2016 final was supposed to complete the story. Virat Kohli had produced the greatest batting season in IPL history. AB de Villiers looked unstoppable. RCB finally looked ready. Then they lost. And strangely, that defeat changed the franchise more than any victory ever could. After 2016, RCB stopped being judged for entertainment, or popularity, or star power. Only one thing mattered now: winning. And over the next few years, that pressure slowly turned into instability. Chapter 1: The Crash After the Peak. RCB entered 2017 carrying enormous expectations. Instead, the season collapsed almost immediately. Virat Kohli struggled with injuries, AB de Villiers missed games, the batting looked unstable, the bowling still lacked consistency. And for a team built around superstar names, the dependence on individual brilliance became painfully obvious. Then came the match that would follow RCB forever. 23rd April 2017 against Kolkata Knight Riders. Chasing just 132, RCB were bowled out for 49, the lowest total in IPL history. Virat Kohli scored 0, AB de Villiers scored 8, Chris Gayle scored 7. 1 year after reaching the IPL final, the same franchise had produced one of the most humiliating collapses the league had ever seen. For many fans, that night stopped feeling like an accident. It felt structural. Chapter 2: Built for Headlines. For years, RCB assembled some of the biggest names in world cricket. Gayle, ABD, Virat Kohli, Yuvraj Singh, Shane Watson. Big names kept arriving. Huge expectations followed. But despite all the star power, the same criticism returned every season: the bowling. Different captains, different coaches, different batting combinations, same problem. RCB could score 220 and still lose matches. At times, the franchise looked more focused on creating exciting lineups than building balanced championship teams. Eventually, that imbalance became impossible to ignore. While other franchises built systems, RCB often built around moments. Chapter 3: The Fire of Virat Kohli. As the years passed, Virat Kohli's aggression became inseparable from RCB itself. Every celebration carried emotion, every rivalry carried tension, every defeat looked personal. To fans, it represented passion. To critics, it sometimes looked like frustration. But regardless of opinion, Kohli's intensity changed the atmosphere around the franchise forever. One of the earliest flashpoints came in 2013 during a heated match against Kolkata Knight Riders. After his dismissal, Kohli got into an on-field confrontation with Gautam Gambhir. The incident quickly became one of the most talked about moments of the season. Years later, the rivalry exploded again. During the 2023 season, tensions involving Kohli, Naveen-ul-Haq and Gambhir turned a regular league match into one of the biggest controversies in modern IPL history. The handshake line became chaotic, fines followed, debates exploded online. Once again, Virat Kohli stood at the center of IPL drama. Those moments also reflected something deeper. By that point, RCB's journey had become emotionally exhausting. And often, Kohli carried those emotions openly on the field. Chapter 4: The Burden. As captain, Virat Kohli carried more pressure than any player in franchise history. For years, RCB's hopes depended heavily on him producing extraordinary seasons. Even when Kohli performed, RCB still lost important matches because of weak bowling attacks, tactical mistakes, and poor balance under pressure. Gradually, the emotional weight became visible. Every season began with massive expectations. Every elimination brought criticism. Every year without a trophy raised the same question again: could Kohli ever lead RCB to an IPL title? But through all the pressure, he never left. While other stars changed franchises, Kohli stayed loyal to RCB. That loyalty strengthened his connection with the fans. It also made every failure feel more personal. Eventually, after years of emotional exhaustion, Kohli stepped away from captaincy. It was the end of an era. Not because he stopped caring, but because the burden had become too heavy for one player to carry alone. Chapter 5: The End of the Golden Era. Then came another difficult reality. The superstar era was ending. Chris Gayle moved on, AB de Villiers retired. Suddenly, RCB no longer looked like the same franchise. For nearly a decade, Gayle, AB and Kohli had defined the identity of the team. They produced impossible chases, historic innings, viral moments. But despite all the entertainment, the trophies never came. That became one of the biggest frustrations in IPL history. RCB had spent years with some of the greatest T20 players ever assembled, yet they never built a complete championship side around them. Chapter 6: The Transition Years. Following Kohli's departure from captaincy, Faf du Plessis guided the franchise through a transitional phase. RCB looked calmer under his leadership, more stable, but the larger question still remained unanswered. Who was the future captain? What was the long-term strategy? And most importantly, could RCB finally build a balanced team instead of depending on superstar batting? The years that followed felt uncertain. RCB kept changing combinations, changing strategies, changing leadership structures. Some decisions confused even their own fans. The franchise traded for Cameron Green from Mumbai Indians. Will Jacks showed flashes of brilliance, including a stunning century in 2024. Yet, RCB still moved in a different direction. At times, the rebuild looked reactive instead of planned. And nowhere was that confusion more visible than the 2025 auction. Many fans believed RCB would aggressively pursue KL Rahul and potentially make him captain. Instead, they barely entered the bidding. Then came another shock. RCB pushed aggressively for Venkatesh Iyer, with the bidding climbing to 23.75 crore rupees. Social media exploded instantly. Fans questioned the strategy. The decision to release Mohammad Siraj surprised many supporters and became one of the most debated moves of the rebuild, especially because Dinesh Karthik had now entered the management structure alongside Andy Flower and Mo Bobat. At the time, nobody seemed to fully understand what RCB were trying to build. That confusion had become familiar. Even when Virat Kohli produced extraordinary seasons, RCB still found ways to lose important matches. Weak bowling attacks repeatedly collapsed under pressure. High totals were defended poorly. Tactical decisions were questioned constantly. For long stretches of the IPL, RCB did not lose because they lacked talent. They lost because the team often lacked balance, clarity, and consistency when matches became difficult. Chapter 7: The Bowling Revolution. Then, the pieces finally started fitting together. For years, RCB built batting lineups. Now they were building a team. The franchise retained Virat Kohli, Rajat Patidar, and Yash Dayal. Then they focused on balance. Josh Hazlewood brought control and elite pace bowling. Bhuvneshwar Kumar added experience and leadership. Krunal Pandya gave stability in the middle overs. Phil Salt changed the tempo at the top of the order. Jitesh Sharma strengthened the finishing role. Tim David added power late in innings. Devdutt Padikkal returned to the franchise. For the first time in years, RCB looked balanced. Not perfect, balanced. That difference changed everything. Because for nearly 15 years, one criticism had followed the franchise everywhere: the bowling. Now, RCB finally looked capable of defending totals under pressure. That transformation changed the identity of the franchise more than any superstar signing ever had. Chapter 8: The Second Innings of Dinesh Karthik. Dinesh Karthik's role inside RCB became far bigger than most fans realized. At first, he was viewed as an experienced finisher, but after moving into mentoring and coaching responsibilities, DK became one of the most influential voices behind the scenes. He worked closely on batting development, auction planning, team structure, and dressing room culture. While RCB had previously relied heavily on emotion and star power, the new management group focused on role clarity and tactical balance. Old RCB often reacted emotionally. This version looked calmer, more structured, more patient. Chapter 9: The Rise of Rajat Patidar. Among all the changes, one story stood out: Rajat Patidar. Unlike the superstars before him, Patidar arrived without hype. He had been released, went unsold, then returned as a replacement player. But during the 2022 eliminator against Lucknow Super Giants, everything changed. Patidar scored 112 not out under enormous pressure, one of the greatest playoff innings by an Indian batter in IPL history. That knock transformed his place inside the franchise. Over time, he earned trust. Not through branding, not through headlines, through performances, calmness, consistency. Eventually, RCB handed in the captaincy. At first, many fans were unsure. Internally, the franchise believed Patidar represented something they had lacked for years: stability. Chapter 10: When the joke stopped feeling funny. By the early 2020s, Isala Cup Namde had become far bigger than a slogan. For RCB fans, it represented belief. For rival fans, it became one of the most repeated jokes in Indian cricket. Isala Cup lollipop. The memes spread everywhere. Every elimination restarted the same trolling. Every failed season made the phrase sound more ironic. After years of disappointment, even some RCB fans had stopped taking it seriously. But in 2024, something unusual happened. While the men's side was still searching for consistency, the women's team quietly changed the atmosphere around the franchise. Royal Challengers Bengaluru won the Women's Premier League title. After the victory, Mandana changed the famous slogan herself, Isala Cup Namdu. This year, the cup is ours. It was a small moment, but for RCB fans, it felt strangely emotional. Because for the first time in years, the phrase no longer sounded like hope. It sounded real. And across the franchise, belief slowly started returning again. Chapter 11. The comeback before the title. By the middle of the 2024 season, RCB looked finished once again. Criticism exploded, memes returned, playoff qualification looked almost impossible. Then something changed. The team started winning under pressure, again and again. Eventually, RCB faced Chennai Super Kings in a virtual knockout match. The atmosphere inside Chinnaswamy felt like a final. RCB won, CSK were eliminated, and suddenly, people started taking RCB seriously again. Not because of hype, because the team finally looked organized under pressure. Chapter 12, 2025. The pressure entering 2025 felt different. For years, RCB fans convinced themselves every season would be special. Now they were almost afraid to believe again. Because they had already seen too many collapses, too many false starts, too many unfinished stories. The 2025 auction had also left many fans confused. KL Rahul wasn't signed. Mohammad Siraj was released. RCB aggressively chased Venkatesh Iyer and still walked away empty-handed. Social media called the auction a disaster. Critics questioned the strategy. But as the season unfolded, something unusual happened. The pieces started fitting together. Phil Salt provided explosive starts. Hazelwood delivered breakthroughs. Bhuvneshwar controlled pressure situations. Krunal brought balance. Jitesh finished innings. For the first time in years, Virat Kohli no longer had to carry RCB alone. Rajat Patidar led calmly. The bowling stayed composed under pressure. The panic that usually surrounded RCB during important matches slowly disappeared. One by one, the decisions that once looked confusing started making sense. Then finally, after 18 years, Royal Challengers Bengaluru won the IPL. Not through chaos, not through miracles, but through balance. For many fans, the feeling was not celebration, it was relief. The joke was finally over. Years of heartbreak, years of ridicule, years of waiting, gone in a single night. The city erupted, the streets turned red, fireworks filled the sky, strangers celebrated together. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, RCB fans could finally say, "We are champions." It was the moment generations had dreamed about, the moment people thought might never arrive. The following day, Bengaluru prepared for celebrations unlike anything the franchise had ever seen. Hundreds of thousands of fans flooded the city. Roads around Chinnaswamy Stadium became packed. Every fan wanted a glimpse of the team that had finally ended 18 years of waiting. Every fan wanted to be part of history. But as the crowds continued to grow, the situation became impossible to control. What began as celebration turned into chaos, and chaos turned into tragedy. A deadly stampede unfolded near Chinnaswamy Stadium. 11 people lost their lives. More than 50 others were injured. The felicitation ceremony was cut short. The celebration stopped. And suddenly, a city that had spent 18 years dreaming about this moment was mourning. And in a heartbreaking twist of fate, RCB's greatest triumph became forever linked with one of its darkest moments. For 18 years, fans dreamed about what winning would feel like. Nobody imagined the celebration would come at such a cost. And so, 2025 would be remembered for 2 reasons. The year RCB finally became champions, and the year some fans never got the chance to celebrate that dream again. Chapter 13. The title that changed everything. One trophy ended the pressure, the second changed everything. When RCB walked into the 2026 season, they weren't carrying the weight of the past anymore. The curse was gone. The questions had disappeared. For the first time in franchise history, RCB entered a season as defending champions. Under Rajat Patidar, the team looked calmer. The bowling attack remained disciplined. The squad looked deeper than ever. And as the season reached its final chapter, only one team stood between RCB and history, the Gujarat Titans. Led by Shubman Gill, a team determined to stop RCB's rise. But this wasn't the old RCB, not the team that crumbled under pressure, not the team that lived on promises. This was a champion side, and champions know how to finish the job. When the final ended, RCB had done the unthinkable, back-to-back IPL champions. After nearly 2 decades of heartbreak, near misses, and endless disappointment, the franchise once known for chaos had transformed into one of the IPL's most dominant teams. RCB were no longer chasing history, they had become part of it. It was a statement. Facing Gujarat Titans on the biggest stage, RCB looked in complete control from start to finish. The bowlers kept GT under pressure throughout the innings, and when the chase began, there was no panic, no collapse, no chaos. Virat Kohli led the way with a match-winning knock, while the rest of the batting unit finished the job with the confidence of a team that had done it before. RCB lifted the trophy again, not as underdogs, not as a team chasing history, but as champions defending their crown. For a franchise that spent years being defined by heartbreak, this was the moment everything changed. Back-to-back IPL titles, the pressure was gone, the doubts were gone, and Royal Challengers Bengaluru had finally become a dynasty. Chapter 14, A New Era. Then came another historic shift. For the first time since the birth of the franchise, RCB changed ownership. United Spirits and Diageo exited. A consortium led by the Aditya Birla Group acquired Royal Challengers Bangalore in one of the biggest franchise deals in cricket history. Ariman Birla became chairman. A new era had officially begun. And somehow, the timing felt symbolic. The franchise that once represented unfulfilled potential was now entering the future as champions. For most of their history, Royal Challengers Bangalore were defined by contradictions. One of the IPL's biggest teams, one of its loudest fan bases, one of its most entertaining franchises, and often one of its most frustrating. They built superstar lineups, created unforgettable moments, generated enormous hype, and repeatedly failed when it mattered most. Some failures came from bad luck. Most came from poor balance, emotional decisions, and constant instability. RCB became famous long before they became successful. Over time, the franchise changed. The dependence on individual brilliance reduced. The squad became more balanced. The management became more patient. And the chaos that once defined RCB slowly disappeared. By 2026, Royal Challengers Bangalore no longer looked like a team searching for moments. They finally looked like a franchise that understood how to win. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and share this video with every RCB fan and every cricket fan who lived through this era. And if you want more videos and stories like this, subscribe and support the channel. This is Parallel Stories signing off.